Hey everyone, and welcome back to another King Arthur Legends Rise video. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about Irit. So I had a brief overview of the character before I summoned for her. Quick apology, someone called this out on my video. I reviewed the Fire Relic. I'm so sorry about that. It was a little later at night. It's really no excuse, but yeah, the Frost Relic is what she gets summoned with, and it is completely different. I actually think the Fire Relic is a little bit better for the gear dungeon because on her skill 2, she gives herself buffs and then also attacks and inflicts mark. Where on the Frost one, she actually doesn't attack. She just boosts herself and then inflicts mark without attacking. And this has led me to kind of make today's video, which is going over the good, the bad, and certainly the ugly with this character. So let's talk about this character a little bit. All right. First of all, the good is this character is a very strong damage dealer, very strong. But the good ties into the bad and certainly the ugly. The bad is you really need someone to have mark. If you don't have mark on, some uncommon or whatever, or a legendary, this attack will not do a whole lot of damage. And that's kind of a bummer because this is the main point of damage, considering the second ability doesn't do any damage, which is part of the issue. On the first attack, the chance for mark is sadly baseline 60, and you need to level this relic up to level 6 to get it to be 100%. If this was 100% baseline, this hero could be a support hero. With mark, you could build this character in like a counterattack set and all of that if you didn't have Sigrund, which is the other mark character, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But leveling up relics is really, really hard. These books are only in Master of Apocalypse, and at stage 5, you might get 1 or 2 drops a day, but you won't be farming this for a very long time. So that's really not reliable. What you want to use this character for, at least in my opinion, is for high damage with the 3 attack ability on their third attack. The passives are very strong. I think the critical strike rate is very good, just to boost this character's own critical strike rate. It doesn't hurt if you have other Serpent's Favor characters. The Black Magic Wrath is a very strong buff. Hit accuracy by 20% is great. This is usually hard to find on your equipment, considering most of the time you're just trying to get raw stat damage, like critical strike, critical damage, like me. Like my gear, I don't think is very, very good at all. So yeah, those kind of buffs are really nice. On top of that, the attack gauge being charged is kind of weird with this character. Like if you take the third ability here, for example, it says when you're attacking with Black Magic Wrath, you should get 100% attack gauge charge, and it doesn't seem like that does that. So, yeah, well, it does, but it's not how it would. It's not how you think it would work, right? Which is just straight giving you an extra turn. So it's a bit odd. So, to recap, the good is this character is a very strong damage dealer. If you have someone like Sigrund, right, who is an excellent mark character. She has really good, like, passive skills that just give mark on heroes without even needing to damage them. She also has a really great attack that inflicts mark that does good damage, and it also puts damage dealt decrease on the boss. So if you have someone like this, this character pairs really well, especially if you don't have someone like Bedivere. If you have Bedivere on the lower levels of, this gear dungeon that we're going to showcase, Bedivere can cheese this thing so easily. Like 2 or 3 hits from Bedivere and the dragon's dead. The problem is the dragon gains evasion, so you could miss. But anyway, that's the good. If you have a marked character, you can pair with this hero, go for it. Character is very strong. We'll show some runs of the equipment dungeon. The bad. The bad is this hero isn't really a marked character, which is kind of the problem that this whole dungeon really has. This dungeon, this boss, is based around putting up marks on the boss so it doesn't get all of these buffs. So the more marks it has on it, the more it swaps its buffs into negative debuffs, it removes buffs. Like, you need marks to kind of take it down, or cheese it, with Bedivere and Morgan. So that's the bad, is this character doesn't really help anything that you would have been doing before. There is a slight, I guess, asterisk on this, where if you get this character Chivalry 1 at the start of the battle, you will mark the boss with mark. So when this says battle, each wave of a dungeon counts as a battle. So the first wave, you'll do this, and then at the start of the second wave, which is the actual dragon boss, this will happen again, and you'll start with Black Magic Wrath. So that's very good. This third ability, the Chivalry 3, is pretty good because it just decreases the cooldown of this from 5 turns to 4 without leveling up the skills. So it's nice, but that one extra Chivalry really helps with putting up the mark on the boss, because the very first turn that the boss goes... Sorry, I'm bouncing around so much. The first turn that the boss goes, if he has markup on himself, he's going to automatically remove one of the buffs. So this is a really strong Chivalry 1 for this dungeon. Now, the ugly with this character is not only is it not a mark character, but you really need someone to apply marks for this hero to be relevant at all in kind of any space, which is nuts. It's a bit of a bummer, because I think, like, baseline, I think most of you probably even noticed in my summon video, I was really excited about the kit of this character. Now, granted, I was reviewing the wrong relic, like a dum-dum, but the passives, like this Black Magic Wrath, this is a great buff. The tracking, doing, these additional damages and mark explosions, like, this can pump out a lot of damage. But if you look at all of the heroes that actually have mark on their kit, there's really none. It's this character, who we've already established is not a mark hero, other than the Chivalry 1. Sigrun, which is just an amazing mark hero. This Shark, I think, just does mark to yourself. Yeah, the cult of... So, like, people within a certain group. Oh, I guess it does inflict mark on one random ally. And it's only a 50% chance, and you can skill level it up to 60, I guess. Like, man, this is kind of brutal. So there's Brainwash there. And then, yeah, just mark on all of your allies. So this hero isn't really relevant. What about this one? 30% chance to inflict mark. That's pretty terrible. 60%, I guess, is okay. So you'd be using the Frost. Okay, so this changes. So defense increase, and then down to 45%, with the possibility to take it up to 65. What about his passives? After inflicting mark, gain increase, so it doesn't actually inflict mark. Okay. And then last but not least, after an ally attacks, 30% chance to hit. Yeah, just like 50% chance to hit, and then 30% chance to inflict mark on a passive. That's not terrible, but really inconsistent. 50% mark. No mark here. 30% up to 50%. Yeah, there's just like nothing there. Sigrun is the only one. So This is certainly the ugly, is you need another legendary hero for this hero to be relevant. um, the nice thing is, I guess, is Sigrund is in the serpent favor, so you can technically use both of them together in serpent's favor. Now, this is the nice thing for me, is it helped me clear serpent's favor 8, and this duo actually allowed me to beat stage 8 on this dungeon where the old cheese play didn't work. So let's go in here and just like do a little run. We'll talk through the skills, show the character's damage, which is strong. It also has a pretty good leader ability. The leader ability in here is damage taken decreased by 15%. So if you're going with more of a slower team, like defensive, a bunch of healers, that kind of thing, this is a pretty good ability. So also, the fact that this hero doesn't really have a skill that attacks on his skill 2 or her skill 2 is you aren't able to actually run this on auto. Like, you have to manual it. Now, there's ways, like if you have vigor set and you time your speeds, there's ways for you to have the second ability up one time and then the third ability up the next time. But it just gets really, really tricky and finicky. And until the game actually releases something where you can like really manage how your skills work, this just isn't viable on auto. So the rest of the team here, Sarah, I was fortunate enough to pull her frost weapon, but she does have that great passive where if you guys don't have like Sigrund and Irit, use Sarah because she has this buff disruption for 2 turns. This will stop the dragon from having any buffs as well. And this is kind of the cheese strategy with her in Bedivere, is Sarah just goes in and puts buff disruption up on the boss. And then she's actually not able, the boss isn't able to add the buffs anyway. So right there, that kind of debuff. All right, so because this Irit has Chivalry 1 or Chivalry 2, at the start of the battle, it inflicted mark on 2 random enemies, and it looks like it just hit the 1 enemy here. I don't know if I got unlucky and it targeted the enemy twice, or if one of these dragons resisted. So now it starts with Black Magic Wrath. So I have the crit damage and the hit accuracy up. So because this dragon has mark, we're going to do that additional damage 1 time for 170% attack, which is pretty good damage. On top of that, the passive 3 is going to activate when attacking while you have Black Magic Wrath, which we do. It's going to unleash this Black Magic Tracking, which will attack 1 enemy for 55% attack, and then the damage of 100% to all enemies. And then if the last hit strike targets 3 or more mark, which won't happen here, it will explode. But this hero is also supposed to gain 100% attack gauge. So let's see what that looks like whenever we go to 1 speed. So here's the damage. And the damage is, like I said, impressive. So that last hit right there, 7,800. The meter fills. It attacks a character and then 2 others. But see, like, the way that plays out isn't the way it's supposed to play out, or at least the way that it reads. The way that this reads is it's supposed to charge your attack gauge by 100, but all that's saying is once you use a skill with Black Magic Wrath, your attack gauge, I guess, then just triggers this Black Magic Tracking. Like, you gain this, and then your attack gauge diminishes and it counts as a separate attack. It's odd. So the passive doesn't read as you would hope. So as you saw there, like, the damage was pretty good, right? The damage was solid. And and it was kind of nice. But now none of the dragons have mark on them, so I won't do this additional 117% attack. I'll just do 198% attack, which is still an okay multiplier, but I don't have that big additional like 2,000 damage attack. Oh, sorry, it was like 7,000 damage or whatever. So the marks that are being put up on this boss right now is from Sigrun's passives. Like that, she's so important to this hero, so you can just keep looping to that skill 3. Now this is the start of the boss fight, and as you see there, our character, because it's chivalry 1 at least, at the start of the battle put up the mark. So this is very strong. But like I mentioned, if you have Sarah, you can kind of just target the boss, and if you get lucky, you can put up the block buff debuff. But because we have Sigrid and Irit, we're going to be okay. So here's the boss. I don't have any of the passives unlocked right now, so I won't be able to trigger that extra attack, but we do have a mark on the enemy, so the damage is going to be fairly impressive. Like, that's a good chunk. It's about what, 15 to 20% damage. So the actual multipliers are not bad. Again, though, it's the role player here is 100% Sigrun. So that's just like the only caveat, but the damage itself is pretty good. Now here, see, again, there's no marks on this boss, so the damage just isn't going to be there. I don't believe we have Black Magic Wrath up. Yeah, no Black Magic Wrath, so our third passive isn't going to trigger. Here we can use this ability to give this hero critical strike up, damage, effect accuracy, all of those things, and then put up mark. Like, this is a strong ability. The problem is on auto, it's not very good. So we put up the mark on the boss. So now we have that up. If he tries to buff, or if he had a buff, he would have removed it. So we're kind of in business here. But yeah, this is kind of just how this plays out. But it doesn't, we don't have a mark up. Now my Sigrun should be going before this boss, before this character, but my speed tuning is pretty terrible, because if she was going before, she would put up marks and then this character would get to go. But yeah, this is basically the team, and this team cleared stage 8 for me, so this was like still a good character for me to pull, but for someone who does not have Sigrun, I don't think this character is worth it. So we're actually going to get out of here because this is stage 7, but you get the point. This team can do it, and so on and so forth. The other areas that this character is good is in the favor dungeons. You know, Serpent's Favor. If you have Sigrun, this character is going to be great. If you don't have Sigrun, it's not going to be very good. Now, I did test this character without the Chivalry 1, and with Sigrun, it's still completely viable. But, you know, my Sigrun is also Chivalry 3. So I've got a lot of things working for this hero. But anyway, guys, that's kind of what I wanted to bring to you. I don't think the hero is super viable unless you have Sigrun. If you have the luck to get this fire relic, though, this is just so good. You know, being able to put up mark on an ability that has a pretty good multiplier, that also gains you critical strike damage increase 3 and crit rate 2. Like, you only need to build this character 40% crit rate or 60% crit rate, and you're going to be pumping out a lot of damage, and you'll inflict mark every turn. So this is just really strong. But that's all I got. I kind of just wanted to do a follow up on this character, give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of just give you a buyer's beware. So that's all I got. Again, sorry for the for talking about the wrong relic on yesterday's video, but hope you enjoyed, and catch you on the next one.